36, and we are moving on with chapter 37 for the day. So, and when I finish this chapter, I'll ask for feedback from everybody. Hare Krishna. What are we going to see today? We are going to see some of the most difficult chapters of Ayodhya Kanda. Ayodhya Kanda itself is painful, but this particular segment is truly heart-rending. And we are going to see separation. We are going to see rules with regard to hard-heartedness, selfishness. We are going to understand what one has to do when there is prolonged suffering. What are the rules? Uh, when can one make some little concessions on Satya? Some the many factors that we are going to see today. So, where did we leave the previous week? We saw that Kaikeyi came up with this suggestion that Rama was like Asamanjasa, somebody who need to be thrown out of the kingdom. He's asking Dasaratha, hasn't this happened in your family before? Is this something new? And everybody gets on her case because it's a very perverse comparison. There is no comparison of the greatness of Rama and what a vile person Asamanjasa was, because of which he had to be thrown out of the kingdom. So after that, Dasharatha goes ahead and says, I'm going to send an entire retinue of the army. I'm going to send people. I'm going to send part of the treasury. I'm going to send animals. I'm going to send whatever, so that Rama will be able to live peacefully. Uh, Seeing that, Kaikeyi says, you know, already people are have been revolting, literally saying that they will leave Ayodhya, go to the forest, live there with Rama. So in that particular situation, she's saying a kingdom without people, kingdom without its money, kingdom without its army, kingdom without all of this sheen. Why would Bharata even accept a kingdom like this? So two out of the two vows, that promises that you gave me, one will never be fulfilled. Maybe Rama will go to the forest, but Bharata will never accept this kingdom. So we come back to square one. We have to fulfill the promise, irrespective what. So Rama comes into the situation and he's giving a solution. He's telling Dasharatha, my dear father, basis the condition. What has to happen is I have actually Tyakta Rajyam, given up the kingdom, Tyakta Bhogam. I've given up all this enjoyment. For me, now I'm going to the forest and I'm going to be living on what is there in the forest and what is that is my situation. So then he gives a beautiful example. He says, when one has given up an elephant in itself, you've given up the elephant. What's the point in having the rope with which you're going to bind the elephant? Now the rope is of no need. Similarly, all of these people, what you're sending me, for me, it will be a bigger burden to actually take care of them in a jungle terrain. So it is better that we go alone. In fact, if there is something that I need tattered bark garments, because that's what is most suitable. And as soon as he said that, somebody seemed so prepared to fulfill that immediately. So Kaikeyi walked up herself and picked up a beautiful set, wonderful, uh, branded bark garments and deer skin, and gave that to Rama. See, what a wild person. Did she give it to Rama? And she said, Ahritya, please wear this. And then she gave it to Rama. But then she also had one for Lakshmana, and then she had one for Sita. Now, Lakshmana and Rama have been in the forest before. They have seen sadhus wear the bark garments. They know how it is worn. So they went ahead and wore it the way it has to be worn. But then Sita is blinking. At this point in time, we need to understand the scene is where all the queens of Dasharatha is there. Dasharatha is sitting on the throne in between, in the middle of all of them. And the entire family is watching what's happening. They are center stage. So Rama and Lakshmana have worn it, but Sita doesn't know. She's never seen a woman wear a dress like this. So she's perplexed. In that situation, she out of all the uh, she's feeling so out of place doing what she's doing, that she has tears in her eyes, that in this I don't know what to do. So she's asking Rama, how do I wear this? So Rama steps forward, picks the bark garment, puts it on top of Sita's silken garments, and um, seeing so just going through this, Sita is having tears in her eyes, and everybody who's standing there is having tears in the eyes, because this is not a little girl who's been married into this family, and she doesn't deserve this at all for whatever. So the women there immediately speak up And then they say, hey Rama, how are we going to live without you? That's going to be so painful. But if you are not here, at least Sita will represent. That will be some respite for us. Sita is not the kind of person who is built to be living in the jungle. She's lived such an opulent life. She comes from a great family. Why put her through this? Please leave her here, is the request that is made. But then, ah, that is not going to be possible because this is Sita's desire. Now, the person who didn't speak up till now, uh, who was waiting for a last volley like this, such a painful thing, that it's being inflicted upon these people in this manner, was Vashishta. And he immediately speaks up at that point and he says, hey, Kaikeyi, you have exceeded uh, all limits. You've just broken all of the boundaries. Kaikeyi Kulapamsini, he says, oh, destroyer of the Kula. And then he says, Sita is such a wonderful person. What harm has she ever done? Uh, in fact, he says, a woman, the wife, is the very soul of a man. Why would you expect that he leave her here and go? But why would she have to be put through this? But I'm telling you, even if Rama has to go, I will see to it that Sita becomes the ruler here so that she is comfortable if she so opts. Then Vashishta says, you think Bharata is going to accept this kingdom? Bharata is born to Dasaratha, and that Bharata will not ever accept a kingdom that's being given without the true willingness of his father, that's been forced out of him. Uh, and then Vashishta said, you think people are going to be sitting here? They are all going to be following. Forget the people, even the birds and the beasts will actually follow Rama where he is. So then people, the voices of everybody goes up there. Everybody saying this is not right, this is not to be done. So Dasharatha speaks up against this. Is all a beautiful point. We need to understand the girl who gets married into a family, the daughter-in-law, is being so protected by everybody in the family. Not to say, he's going through trouble. Why she cannot share that with him? No, they're saying the other way around. This we see later also as Bharata is coming to receive Rama. When Rama sees the entire army, sees Shatrunjaya, the great elephant there, when he sees that at that time, uh, he says, probably Dasharatha has come here to take Sita away uh, because she was always the favorite for Dasharatha. He loved her, he treated her so well. So Sita, Dasharatha says, Sita is undeserving. She has done no harm ever to anybody. She is not part of the promise, and you have no right to make Sita walk like Rama and Lakshmana. That is not going to happen. Yes, and then he looks at her and says, haven't you heard? Nirayam Gantu Michasi. Do you really wish to go to hell? Haven't you heard? Haven't you earned enough sin already? He's getting on Kaikeyi's case. So then Rama uh, speaks to the lamenting Dasharatha and he says, I have one request of you. Can you please take care of my mother? She is a guileless lady, in contrast specifically to Kaikeyi, of course. She never ever intends ill to anybody. She's good at heart, and her sorrow in this situation, because I've been her apple's eye, her sorrow in this situation could mean death to her. So please give her the necessary attention, because without your compassion, this Kaushalya will die, and I hope to see her when I come back. This is the request that Rama makes. So then, uh, this puts Dasharatha in a complete state of lamentation. So we moved on to the next chapter. We're in chapter 39 now. So uh, Dasharatha is in a lamentful state. He's unable to even respond because he knows Kaushalya has got a bad bargain, which we saw already the previous time. So Kaushalya is actually behaving like a mother cow, which is separated from her kid. She's completely restless in that particular situation, and she says, that is my situation and my heart is with you. Then Dasharatha orders Sumanthara to fetch the chariot. You see the principle that Dasharatha is following, the principle that Sumitra is following, the principle that Rama is following. You will see the thread through here. When it comes to very difficult, heart-rending situation where everybody is actually going through suffering, at that time there is no point in prolonging that suffering. So Dasharatha is asking Sumanthara to immediately fetch the chariot and make the necessary arrangements. So Sumanthara comes back and tells Rama that um, the chariot is ready. So as he is coming, in the meanwhile, Dasharatha goes ahead and asks that special valuables be given away, that Sita be completely ornamented, radiating like the sun with the best ornaments that are there, etc. At that point, Kaushalya goes and speaks to Sita, and she speaks a few words. What does she say? She says, actually, it's a duty of the woman to stick to her husband, and that's why I'm being forced to stick here to Dasharatha. Yes, though I love my son so much, but not being with one's husband is the greatest pain for a woman. Therefore, many times women are pleasure seeking, and very often they can be fickle. When that pleasure is no more available to them, they don't see him as a source of that happiness, and therefore they abandon him. So please stick to Rama, be with him. Hmm. She instructs him, and then he says many women lose their love for their husbands and become unstable minds. So when she finishes her advice, then Sita has a retort. Sita basically responds, but this is the Sita that we are going to see even later when she meets Ravana. Ravana is making advances towards her time and again, telling her, who is that mortal that you are afraid of? I am that Rakshasa who even even the demigods fear. Where is that mortal in front of me? Don't you see all of these beautiful women who have actually taken to me because I'm the greatest? I'm the best looking hunk in this space at this point in time. I'm this, I'm that, and all of that. So at that time she says, Dinova Rajya Hinova Same Bharta Same Guru. Uh, whether he is Dina uh, or in a very difficult state, or Rajya Hinova, without a kingdom, he is my husband and he is my everything. So that Sita is now responding and saying, first she says, hey, Kaikeyi, hey mother-in-law, I will, I will, I will follow what you have said. And she says, I definitely know these principles. Mentions that, but then um, she says it so beautifully to the mother-in-law that there is nobody will have this feeling that there is something wrong there. So then she says, just as a veena without strings has no use, just as a chariot without wheels has no use, similarly a woman without a husband, I know these principles very well. I am going with Rama and I will stick to him, she assures Kaikeyi on that. Then comes the next. Rama seeks to take leave. So Kaikeyi um, uh, uh, requests Kaushalya. Now that he has requested already Dasharatha to take care of Kaikeyi, now he requests Kaikeyi, take care of Dasharatha. Please take care of him. He will miss me. Please take care of him. And then he looks at the other mothers of his who have all assembled there, and then he begs their forgiveness. And he says, if by any chance there has been a time when I have been harsh, spoken ill with you, or behaved inappropriately, knowingly or unknowingly, can you please forgive me? All of these mothers who are already in tears, who know Rama to be the most sweet speaking, who know Rama to be the knower of Dharma, who know Rama to be the best behaved under any circumstance. When they hear this, they see the magnanimity and the humility of Rama, and they burst out in tears, and there is wailing that continues all around the scene. So, in that particular situation, um, the next thing that happens is Rama and Lakshmana and Sita are now, everything is done. They are ready to set go. We know that the Sumanthara comes in and informs that the chariot is also ready. So first thing they do is they circumambulate Dasharatha. They circumambulate Dasharatha, offer obeisances to him, and then once that is done by all of them, that they offer obeisances to everybody there, Lakshmana comes, offers his respects to Kaushalya, And then he comes in front of Sumitra. What does Sumitra do? Sumitra wails because of the affection that she has for her son, and she's going to miss her son. But this is a mother who has many facets other than just being the mother. A very learned, knowledgeable person. What does she do? She gives advice to Lakshmana. She says, "You are born for the forest." The actual word she says is Srishtatvam. Srishtatvam Vanavasasya. You have been created to for the sake of Vanavasa. Ramo Pramadam Makarshit. Very, very important instruction. Ramo Pramadam Makarshit means in the aspect of serving Rama, let there be no stone unturned. Do everything. Don't ignore any aspect. Don't be callous about anything. So Ah, then she speaks this famous verse which is oft quoted. Ramam Dasharatham Vidhi Mam Vidhi Janakatmajam Ayodhyam Atavim Vidhi Gachatata Yatha Sukham. Yes, Ramam Dasharatham Vidhi. Hey Rama, hey Bharata, hey Lakshmana, please understand that Rama for you is Dasharatha. Ramam Dasharatham Vidhi Mam, me, Vidhi Janakatmaja, that your mother, know Sita as your mother. Ayodhya Matavim Vidhi, please understand that for you, from now, Ayodhya is the forest. And Gachata Tayata Sukham. Hey child, please go. So I had mentioned this earlier also. Um, Most people just think Kaikeyi is the only person who wants them to go, but actually Sumitra is also happy to let go of her son because she sees that her son is getting the opportunity of a lifetime. Hundreds of people have been serving Rama and Sita, but single-handedly, Lakshmana is going to be performing all of those activities to be of service, to get that time, to get that great opportunity for seva. So Sumitra actually epitomizes that wonderful person who understands, who's mature, uh, who's with that maturity and with that seva orientation, hurrying them along. And then Sumanthara speaks. Uh, so he says, please don't spend any more time. The first day of your Vanavasa has to start today. So before sunset, please leave this day, this place, so that your day one happens. So he immediately follow his instruction and they onboard the chariot. As they are onboarding the chariot, Dasharatha is giving more clothing and various weapons to Rama, Lakshmana, clothing, ornaments, and weapons to all of them. And as they walk out of the house, going towards the chariot, there are many people, guards trying to keep people off, but they're not able to stop people running towards Rama to get one last opportunity to associate with him, go close to him, have a look at him. And as they get on the chariot slowly, one by one, all three of them, Sumantra driving the chariot, as the horses are being yoked, there are people holding on to the sides of the chariots with tears in their eyes, everybody crying the names of Rama in different ways, people running behind the chariots, yes, hanging on to the side of the chariots and literally rocking it, and people requesting the driver, oh driver, ha Suta, uh, Suta, Yahi, Shanai Shanaihi, please go slowly, please go slowly. On the other hand, Sita and Lakshmana are being appreciated. There are people who are saying, oh, if there is somebody who is fortunate in this world, it is Lakshmana who is going there with Rama to serve him. Yes, and what a great person Sita is. She's made the perfect decision. We are proud of her. There are people saying that in the background. And then they are saying, uh, this is, they are appreciating that very fact that, oh, Lakshmana, that you're following, both of you are following Rama itself is your way to ultimate salvation, to higher attainments for you. But then, as this scene is happening, you're able to hear, Dasharatha is able to hear the wailing of the queen, the wailing of king there. The king tries to, then he says, I can't stay here anymore. He walks out, comes out to meet his people. When he sees, when he comes out there, he is able to see. For Dasharatha, there were two eyes. One, the fact that which means there were two very dear things. One, the fact that Rama was very, very dear to him. Two, the fact that the people were very, very important to him. But here, what's happening is when Dasharatha is seeing his scene, that he has done something by which his people have been let down, and the people so love Rama, and he has had to become instrumental in sending that Rama away. Dasharatha is completely in a very difficult situation. So what happens is he's looking at this, and when he's looking at it, he heads towards them, and as he sees this, the calamity and the size of it dawns on Dasharatha's head. He falls down like a broken tree, like a tree that's been cut at the roots. He falls down there. Then, uh, uh, seeing the people, uh, crying in this manner, the people are crying. When Dasharatha fell down, then the people are crying even further on. And then the cries of the queens, the cries, everybody is saying, and the cries of the people, Hey Rama, Hey Kaikeyi, Hey Rama Mata. So many different things, different voices. It's heart-rending voices of different people going through this very, very difficult situation. So Rama notices the father and mother as he is going in the chariot slowly. He is able to turn back and see his father and mother. Kaikeyi is being explained to literally be dancing. She's like jumping up. I don't know whether you have had the opportunity to see. Sometimes people get possessed. When they are possessed, either by as a godly spirit or by an unholy spirit, you will see you can never control them, and the way they jump and the things they do are not human at all. Uh, in a similar manner, Kaikeyi is supposed to be putting her hands up and beating her chest and crying at this particular as they are parting. Uh, so then uh, Kaikeyi starts running behind the chariot. Rama is looking back every time, repeatedly, again and again. He's not able to go there and take care of them, because if he does, he's going to stop the entire progress of moving out of this place and finishing this distress. And on the other hand, he is seeing Dasharatha, who's getting up from the fact that he has fallen down, and then he starts to slowly walk towards, and then tries to run and again fall another time. And looking at that, Rama is telling Sumanthara, Yahi, Yahi, please go faster, go faster. And on the other hand, from the back, they are hearing the voice. First, they were hearing the voices of the people asking Sumanthara to slow down. But here, now they hear the voice of Dasharatha at his peak. Tishteti, stop, stop. Sumantra is torn between, do I listen to Dasharatha, who's asking me to stop, who is the king with whom I've been for thousands of years, or do I listen to this Rama, who's so close to me, so dear, and what he's saying is right. Sumantra is being torn between. At that point in time, Rama is saying, Chiram dukkasya papishtam. That when it is a very painful, pitiable situation, it should not be stretched, it should not be elongated, it should be cut out, finished quickly. So he says, please follow what I'm saying. And mm, upalabhya api, even if reproached, even if Dasharatha is going to speak, uh, then you tell him that you did not hear him. So this is one particular situation. Rama is actually, for the sake of the well-being of the people, for the sake of the well-being of his parents, uh, he's asking Sumantra to ignore uh, and and say what looks like a small lie, so that Dasharatha is doesn't have to go through any more of this suffering. Dasharatha, I remember watching the Gandhi movie, where uh, Gandhi, when he was doing his initial practice for Satyagraha in South Africa, there was a bill, and he picked that bill up and put it in fire, and the police comes and beats him again. He picks up one more, wakes up, unable to even get up from that situation, but still he's crawling, goes and puts it back on the fire to show how determined he was. But in this case, it shows how determined he is in his love for Rama, though he's physically not capable by this by what has happened over the last day and a half. And he's trying to progress towards Rama, and Rama is seeing him fall again and again. He's seeing his mother jump up and down, in that situation, he says, Sumantra, please move. Sumantra doesn't move the chariots immediately. See the beauty of how responsible these people were in a monarchy. Sumantra takes the permission of the people. He says, "Please, you have to let me go now." And then he starts to ride the chariot faster. Rama looks with folded hands and offers pranams to his parents, to the praja, to everybody, and moves on. So as they are moving on, the kinsmen are still walking towards him. And though when they no more see Rama and the chariot, so they stop and they start returning. But Valmiki says in their mind, they are still circumambulating Rama. Their mind is still around Rama. And then the ministers come to Dasharatha. Dasharatha is still running. He's getting up. Every time he falls, he's getting up and he's running towards Rama. So the ministers come and restrain him, and they explain to him. They say, when somebody who's going to return, say somebody passes away, and if the body is being taken away, that a person follows him till a distance. That is permitted. But then, uh, when it comes to somebody who is going to return, one should not go very far. One should remain, go a little distance out of respect, but stop and come back. So then, Dasharatha and Kaikeyi and everybody seem to see sense in what the ministers are telling them. So they decide to return. But then Dasharatha is again looking back, looking towards that direction till the dust settles, till the chariot is not visible anymore. And then, heaving, perspiring, body full of dust, crying and gazing, Dasharatha is standing there, still looking towards the direction that Rama has gone, uh, so that he is able to get a last glimpse of Rama. Can I have any comments, any additions, any things that I have missed out here from our elite audience? Anybody? Any comments? Hare Krishna. So now that this has happened, uh,
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. I was trying to contact you. Can you hear me, Prabhu? I'm Shobha. Okay, Prabhu, that advice is given by Sumitra Mother to her son, Lakshmana. That is a very important advice is that all mothers have to give. It is applicable to everybody. All mothers have to give this advice to their children when they are going abroad for higher studies or anything. And so, very important thing that is Prabhu. Hare Krishna, Prabhu. You explained that nicely. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
thank you, Mataji. Anybody else?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Yes,
Sorry
Prabhu.
to interrupt. Yeah, the same point which Mataji had just raised, I was a little confused. Why? I mean, does she know that Lakshmana was destined for this? Why is she happy that he's he's going to the forest? Is it predestined and something she knows? If she had already known, then she will not be as despondent and as she's supposed to be right now, right?
Hmm. Actually, if you see, Sumitra's wailing is a natural understanding of separation from a son for 14 years for no cause, and he is completely unrelated to that, where a son is just doing it for the sake of being of service to Rama. That's the purpose of her wailing. How did she know? Why is she talking about you're destined? You were born only for the sake of going to the jungle. Why does she come to know? The background the acharyas give for that is they say that at the time that they had all been conceived in a very very close span of time. Yes. Um, so Sumitra knew very well that Kaushalya is going to have the Supreme Lord born to her. So Sumitra's desire was to see that, mm, she has two sons, one who will be of service uh, to the great devotee, and one who will be of service to the Lord. The Lord himself was Rama, and the great devotee was Bharata. Therefore, one of Sumitra's sons, who was Shatrughna, always remained in the service of Bharata, who is the greatest devotee. And the other of Sumitra's son was Lakshmana, who always remained in the service of the Supreme Lord. So her aspiration right from the beginning was, may I have a son who's capable of being in service to Lord Rama. That was her major aspiration. And that aspiration she was able to see is getting fulfilled at this point in time. This was a desire, and therefore she thinks it as a great opportunity. I hope I'm able to. I in the because of the speed that we need to cover some of these chapters, I probably rolled over. Thank you for bringing that up, Ravi Prabhu. Anybody else? I hope that answers the question, Prabhu.
Yes, Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Delighted to hear the question and the answer. Hare Krishna.
Anybody else? Any comments? So, with this, basically, we see the chariot is gone, and they are all slowly entering back into Ayodhya. And as they are entering, what is Dasharatha seeing? Dasharatha is seeing on one side all of his citizens crying, many of them speaking ill of him. Aho Nischetano Raja. Yes, our Raja has no buddhi. What has he done? And the kind of words he has never heard in his life. And on the other end, he is seeing all of the queens wailing on the other side. So seeing this, Dasharatha, who as a king is always concerned about the well-being of his people. It's his responsibility to take care of the queens. It is he who has been playing the leader, and even now has to play the leader, but he doesn't seem to have the strength to be able to put that hard front at this point in time. He has already fallen on the ground multiple times. In that perspiration is fully, perspiration plus dust, they are good friends. So he is fully covered with dust. People have never seen him in this particular state, and he's feeling so bad that he has had to be instrumental to bring his glorious kingdom to this particular situation. So that evening, as Rama left, Ayodhya had no cooking. Nobody did even their basic rites that they had to do. There was no eating, there was no enjoying. People's faces were all wet. Many of them remained in the highway. Uh, the elephants, the kavala, that is being the big balls of food that's been prepared for the elephant and left, they just leave it on the ground. They're not eating. The calves are not being fed by the mothers, and the mothers are ignoring their firstborns, the human mothers. It is not only the people that are in lamentation. What is nature's response? The constellations and the planets change their position. Clouds were dark, and suddenly it looked like the evening had already come because the sun had been fully covered. And the dishas all became reddened. The breeze did not blow anymore, and the moon did not look pleasant anymore. The sun had completely disappeared, was not giving warmth. The mothers stopped thinking of their sons. The husbands stopped thinking of their wives. Everyone deserted everyone. The city stood like, a dead skeleton. So this is very, very close to the scenario that we see of what Akrura saw with the gopis. Yes. So they told him, "You're not Akrura, you're Atikrura. You're such a painful person. You're causing so much pain to us." And they were extremely upset. The gopis were extremely upset that Krishna Balram had to leave. In a similar manner, they were hanging on to the chariots of Krishna and running behind them, seeing and waiting till Krishna disappears in the horizon. So he says, you know, uh, why did the elders not stop Krishna from going? So seeing this is a very, very striking similarity to that particular situation there. So then the grief-stricken Dasharatha slowly plods. He is falling as he walks, stumbling, staggering, hobbling as he goes, and uh, He's standing there still. Every few minutes he's back to see if by any chance you know,
That's why I was telling you, don't eat. You were eating like what? There is no tomorrow the way you are eating.
Krishna.
Continuously.
Somebody mic off. Shamili, thank you. Hare Krishna. So at that time, Dasaratha is still looking again and again in that direction. But then people finally tell him that you can't see him anymore. Then he turns around and realizing that there's nothing more that's going to happen, he turns around, but then he loses his balance again and he falls. When he falls again, immediately there is Kaikeyi, Kaushalya to his right, Kaikeyi to his left, and they are lifting him up. Dasharatha at that point in time becomes so angry that Kaikeyi even came near him. So he says, uh, Sprakshi, why did you, Twam Prakshi, Dushta, hey Dushta, why did you even touch me? I don't want you to, you're a woman of evil conduct. I don't want you to even touch me. It's not only you, your descendants for that matter. They are not mine, I'm not theirs anymore. You are vile, self centered, self interested, and you have care nothing for Dharma. You care nothing for the words of the elders or the views of anybody else. Yes. Uh, and then he says, I held your hand when I went around the fire. But at this point, let me tell you, I am renouncing that. You are nothing to me. You don't mean anything to me. And then he says, if actually at all Bharata is going to be happy ruling this kingdom, then I don't want him to perform my final rites. And then, very sorry, dusty, breathing heavily, perspiring, helped by Kaushalya, he requests the others to help him and take him to Kaushalya's home. So when he reaches Kaushalya's home, as he's going to Kaushalya's home, he's telling them, I'm able to see the hoof prints, but I don't see my son. So it is a reality. I'm able to see the hoof prints here, but I don't see my son anymore. And then he says, this Rama, who needs to be smeared by sandalwood paste, like me, smeared in dust now, is going to be lying down on a floor, and his bed is going to be some tree trunk. Uh, and is that how he's going to be eating roots and fruits? Is that how he's going to be living? He's Lokanatha. He's the Lord of this universe, but he's going to live like Anatha, that he doesn't have a Lord. And on the other hand, Sita is going to be troubled by the wild screaming of the animals and the birds, and by the thorns and the pebbles that are there. Why do my children have to go through this? Then he says, I see no reason to live. Now that there is no Rama, I just see no reason to live. He says, Oh Kaikeyi, your desire is fulfilled. You rule the kingdom. Yes, uh, because I'm gone. I'm gone. And then he says, and then the entire Ayodhya, the squares and the highways are all deserted. The temple marketplace are closed. Business closed immediately at that time when all this news came. People were weak, fatigued, tormented, lamenting, brooding over Dharma, over Rama. And then Dasharatha finally entered the palace. When he entered the palace, his mind was still, uh, tormented. And then he says, Ha Raghava, Jahasimam, O Rama, you have forsaken me, you have given up on me. And saying that, he says, how fortunate will be those people who will still live in Ayodhya by the time Rama will come. So all this sort of sets him up in a frame that he knows very well that he's not going to survive at this. And then he says to Kaushalya, hey Kaushalya, Ramam me anugata drishtir adyapina nivartate. My eyes went with Rama. It looks like my eyes have gone with Rama. Adhyapina navartate. It looks like they have not come back and they will not come back. And then he says, I'm actually not able to see anything. Can you touch me? Touch my hands. So this is the state of Dasharatha, who's so rift with the fact that he has lost his dear son in this state. Can I have any comments, any questions, any additions? Hare Krishna. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to close with this today. We will see just one section here where Sumitra gives some advice. But before that, can I have any last comment from anybody? Is there anybody here who's new to this or here for the first time or hearing this section for the first time? Anybody on the forum?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
This is Damodar.
Damodar Prabhu, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
This is the first time you're hearing this segment?
Yes, Hare Krishna.
So, see, if we are to sum up what are the different moods that we are seeing here, first we are seeing one which is a cause of all this, which is sort of selfishness, stubbornness, inability to take any sort of guidance or counsel, uh, lack of care, heartlessness with regard to others' difficulty. That seems to be the cause propelling all of this. And in between is a person who sometimes, like the legality of a nation, has to mete out the right and wrong, but sometimes the legality is not well written or not articulate enough, and sometimes even those who are actually being harmed don't get the necessary support from the legal system. So Dasharatha basically literally represents a state like that, where he's unable to, though knowing this thing, he's unable to swerve from the fact that he is duty bound to do to uphold Satya, having given those vows. On the other hand, we have seen from the previous chapter the kind of dedication that Mother Sita had. We are able to see that selfless service being depicted by Sumitra and Sumitra Nandana, who is Lakshmana. Absolutely selfless service, where Rama's priority is the only priority in their life, and Rama's well-being is the only purpose for them. On the other hand, the great affection of the mother Kaushalya, who again is being torn between her affection for her son and her affection for the father. And then we see Dasharatha, the father I have never seen. The kind of affection that the father has for his son is simply phenomenal. But the kind of affection he has as a king for his people, even completely the eye opening for us to understand what were the great, why were they called Raja Rishis of all things. We may think Dasharatha has so many wives, that he's enjoying his royal this thing because of the influence of his wife. He did this, despite all that. If you just move that a little to the side, you will see the greatness of this personality of Dasharatha. And then here is this person who is always serving, completely engaged in the service of the Lord and the Raghuvamsha, which is Sumanthara, and the kind of difficulties that he is having to go through. And then comes Vashishta as a sadhu. You can't speak up for anything and everything, and you can't interfere in every single aspect of somebody's family and their affairs. But when it comes to a real dire situation like this, he pops in and he says what he has to say at that. And the same is true of Siddhartha, who comes in at that point in time. People are showing the kind of affection that they have had for this whole dynasty, because of which they are showing this affection to Rama. But apart from that, Rama, in his own might and his own capacity, has singly, just because of the way he has dealt with his people, the kind of love he has shared with them, the kind of difficult situations he has been there shoulder to shoulder, as if their house problem is his own problem. Their how their children deal with Rama, all of these aspects that come about make that great personality indelibly in their with an indelible impression in the hearts of the people. Uh, Actually, these people are the greatest devotees of the Lord. And you see Sumitra's instruction to Lakshmana. I forgot to make one mention there; it just came to my head when she sees Ramam Dasharatham Vidhi. Uh, there is one other way to interpret the same verse, to say that uh, uh, dasha can also mean the like Garuda, or a bird. So Dasharatham, one who has a bird for a for his ratha, that is Rama. Who is that? That is Vishnu. Mam can be also interpreted to represent Lakshmi. Mam Vidhi Janakatmaja. Know that Janaka's daughter Sita is none other than Lakshmi. So Rama is none other than Vishnu, and Sita is none other than Lakshmi. And in that state, she so Sumitra is supposed to be such a great knowledgeable personality, who's having that balance. This is like, in a particular family or in a difficult situation, big calamity has struck. There is somebody in the family, sometimes it's an aunt, like Sumitra, who's keeping the calm, who's putting who's balancing the situation quite well. So that's another personality there. And then come all the other kinsmen who are serving, the ministers. It's, they are also going through a similar difficult state. But just see Kaikeyi's fate. First is, it is her biggest loss. But despite that, in that situation, when she's seeing Dasharatha in that particular situation, he falls down. Despite the fact that she hasn't eaten for many days, she is completely emaciated at that time, and her battery is completely, almost nil. In that situation, when she sees Dasharatha fall down, she's having to run, go there, help him, support him. This is sometimes, even in a state of calamity, for some people, you have to go on serving. You can't just get into a shokagraha and keep crying about it. Yes, you have to move on with life's activities, and that's also an important thing. Many times, if you see, the same thing happens when Vali passes away. There's wailing and crying all over the space. At that time, Lakshmana comes in. Rama is sitting there. Lakshmana comes in and starts engaging many of those people who are wailing, because there are things to be done when somebody has passed on. So he goes there and engages different people to do different things. You go, bring this, bring that, bring Mr. Purohit, call him, whatever needs to be done. In a similar manner, there are some people who play that wonderful role. So this whole thing, there is one central personality to whom everybody completely owes their allegiance, their life breath, uh, in every way, whom they love so dearly. We will see later, hearing from the lamentation. I think I probably skipped one chapter somewhere in between, um, where I think immediately after this, there is a chapter when all of these people are coming back. The ladies start getting on the case of the men who are there, and there is a lot of people who actually decided to go with Rama. So I'll pick that up, and I will this thing. There's a huge retinue of people who decided to go along with Rama, and in the next few chapters, you will see description of very elderly people who, though physically they were incapable of doing that, were going. And seeing them, Rama asks Sumanthara to stop, gets down from the chariot, and walks along with those elderlies. This is the greatness of the character of Rama. Uh, is is the beauty about Ramayana. And if we are constantly reminded of Rama, how would Rama behave in this situation? How would Rama deal in this situation? I'm angry. Would Rama be dealing in the same way? Would Rama be speaking the same words? Would Rama do this in this circumstance? If we get into that consciousness, we cannot but move towards a perfect lifestyle as did Lord Rama. It's a big journey, it's a big distance, but any improvement we make from where we are to getting closer to the Maryada that Lord Rama represented, that is the greatest success of life. That is what's going to make change in us. Saying that, I want to close for the day, unless any of you have any comments or questions. Thank you very much. 10th is Ram Navami. 10th, we're going to have a very big program at the Regent School. We will post it in the forum also. If any of you have friends whom you think they would be interested in listening to the Ramayana, please add them on to this forum. Invite them for the Regent School program for Ram Navami, where they're going to get the opportunity to hear various wonderful bhajans on Rama. And so it's going to be mostly all Rama bhajans on that day. And Rama deities are going to be there as the main deities for whom Abhishek is going to happen. Sarvabhaum Prabhu is going to be there, who is going to be speaking. I will also be addressing segments from Ayodhya Kanda in that zone there on that day. So this is my personal invitation to all of you to please join us on the 10th of April. The program will mostly start like around 10:30, and then we would go on till 2. Prasadam will be given out to everybody for those who are new. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Let's all mic up for Jai Gosha, and then we can wrap with that. Everybody together, can you mic up? Hare Krishna. Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman ki
Nikki
Jai.
Jai.